largely unspoken, was not publicly recognized or acknowledged in any way. There was a sort of terrible romanticism forced upon us over what what Irish womanhood had to be. You know, the comely maidens dancing at the crossroads, or you know, the supporter in the home, and the struggle against that, the way women were forced to internalize things, the inescapability of marriages, relationships, the relentless childbearing, all of those things were spoken of on the surface but were suffered in silence beneath, and suddenly she brought voice to so many thousands of silent bodies.
You know, I'm also struck many of our listeners will know many books, but A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing, of course, is one that was wildly successful for you, and it's kind of interesting to pick up that intersection that you have with Evan, because you knew her as well. She also became a mentor for you.
Yes, I mean, I had written Girls Have to Thing before I met her, but I certainly, I thought a great deal of Country Girls as I was working that book, and although it was 8 years later, it was still set in that landscape of intense beauty, but also incredible silence and fear and shame. And I would never have been able to write that book without her example before me. And so later, when I first met her, and I brought my very battered old copy of Country Girls and very sort of shamefacedly asked her if she would sign it for me, it was a huge moment for me. And I remember she just wrote in it, to be where my friend now and then. And I think she really felt that the kind of the loving accompaniment of women who had to be silent through all those years, and who witnessed her journey, who witnessed her struggle, and who supported her, and who were allowed to support her publicly. And I think it was important to her in her later years to realize how much people loved her, how much they valued her work, but also how much they respected what she had been through and the path that she had carved for those of us who came after.
Because she was a woman in a very, very male-dominated space. How would you describe her impact on the Irish literary scene? It's kind of hard to, I think.
I mean, I think catastrophic for a lot of the old sacred cows.
Or maybe we should say bulls, considering that they were
the
probably
sacred bullocks,
men.
more like in that era. And but she was very much, however much we complain about women's position in literature now, she was on her own. There was no one like her. There was no one, and I think certainly there was a tremendous resentment towards the fact that not only was she saying what she was saying, she was airing the dirty laundry of the nation in public, but she was also wildly successful, not just in Ireland, but internationally. And the goal that created among, I think, a lot of rather resentful Irish male writers was extraordinary. And I think that also led to a lot of bile being directed to her. And it certainly led to a lot of critical diminishing of the quality of her work, of the intellectual integrity of her work, as well as the emotional capacity and wonderful prose. I think, she enraged people because she was so successful. Loved her, and readers loved her.
Best revenge, right? And I think also she had a very progressive, liberal attitude to life as well. So it wasn't just on the pages, also the way that she decided to walk through this world. You mentioned the dirty laundry that Edna O'Brien was washing the nation's dirty laundry in public. But you did also go on to say, as I quote you, laundry which has proved so dirty that more than 50 years later it's still proving in need of a rinse. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think in Ireland, obviously, the stories continue to emerge of the past that was hidden and disregarded, of what happened to women, and happened to children, what happened to disabled people, what happened to anyone who wasn't a sort of a glorious middle class male. And I think, looking back on when I had the pleasure of writing the introduction to a new version of her Country Girls trilogy, and I spent a lot of time just reading back through old reviews and things that were said, and I think there is a lot of rage towards her evident in that, and I think that continues to be the experience of a lot of women writers once they come into the public domain, of a literary culture that, you know, poo-poos them and diminishes them. And you know, I think that's part of the laundry that continues to be shaking out into the sun these days.
Well, we are doing it as we speak about Edna O'Brien with the also incredibly successful Irish novelist Emer McBride. Thank you for spending some time with us. Girl is a Half One Thing is one of Emer's books, but that's a beginning. It's many, many more as well. It's been wonderful to have you on and also to hear your memories of the Irish novelist who has died at the age of 92. What are your next? To the hundreds of thousands of children in England with special educational needs and disabilities, or SEND, as the system that they are in is described. It is said that they are being failed by a broken system, and it's a new independent report commissioned by the Local Government Association and the County Councils Network that is warning that the system needs immediate and fundamental reform, and it also spells out how to do that. There's a group of 12 leading chief executives of children's organisations that are worried that some of the ideas will pile on even more pressure for families and their children. In a moment, we'll hear from the CEOs that women are being the brunt of this SEND crisis. And I gave out the number just as we were coming to air. And I noticed, oh my goodness, so many messages that have already come in. Our reporter, Carolyn Atkinson, is here. So give us a little bit of context, Carolyn, and welcome to how many children we're talking about.
Well, more than ever before. Let me give you an idea. Overall, there are roughly 9 million school children in England, and 1.2 million of them are assessed as having some form of special educational need. And on top of that, another 575,000 between nursery age and 25 with the highest needs have what's called an Education Health and Care Plan, or EHCP, and that sets out the extra support that they are legally entitled to. Now, a decade, that figure was only 240,000 children, so you can see it's more than doubled. Overall, the families of these children will tell you they're driven to the brink, they're drained both financially and emotionally, they're often pitted against their local authorities, they're always battling to get something, an EHCP or going to tribunal, and some still don't even get a school place at all. Now, I've been speaking with one family which has gone through some of this. Pete Nellis is Professor of Materials Science at Oxford University's Corpus Christi College, and he's a former admissions tutor for undergraduates. Dr. Ruth Nellis is Research Project Manager at the university. They're both speaking in strictly personal capacity. Now, their daughter Katie, who's now 17, however, has barely been to school since she was 11.
The SEND system has been one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with, and no one should have to deal with that. They have no empathy or awareness of your feelings. You just feel like a little checkbox in the system. And it's not fair that they have power to make these decisions about your life. No one deserves this. If this was a more widespread systematic issue, this would have been a scandal.
And from your experience, if you're happy to talk about that, what was school like when you were at school?
Even from my earliest memories of primary school, I could barely talk to my parents about what had happened that day. And then, when I got to year 6, there were SATs to do, and the pressure was just ramped up to such an insane degree that the pressure just got too much and I decided to have a massive meltdown.
And what do you think should have happened at that point?
Knowing how high functioning autism presents now, if someone is appearing fine in school, but then having massive reactions at home that is textbook masking, it's all well and good to be able to support the children you can see have got these additional needs, but the ones who are invisible struggle just as much. I can continue.
Shall we bring that on? So,
Katie was existing. She wasn't able to wash, she wasn't able to dress. Any day she was able to go to bed. She wasn't eating. She was struggling just interacting with us all. She couldn't sleep. We slept on the floor. I don't know how long. She was anxious. As a parent, you feel devastated, helpless,